Emily stared out of the large glass windows of the cafe, her coffee now cold in front of her. The sounds of the busy street below seemed far away, muffled by the thick glass. The city was alive, bustling with life, yet she felt a strange emptiness inside, as if she were floating through a world that wasn't quite her own. She had been with Chapman for 3 years now. They'd been through so much together, from the highs of celebrating business successes to the lows of personal struggles. He had always been her rock. They had talked about their future marriage, family, the house they would buy. Everything seemed to be falling into place, and yet, for the first time in their relationship, Emily felt a gnawing unease in the pit of her stomach. It all started yesterday. She had gone to the mall to pick up a few things. Nothing too special, just a new dress, some skincare products. As she had walked through the crowded halls, her eyes had caught sight of Chapman. He was standing near a stall, his hand resting lightly on the shoulder of a woman Emily didn't recognize. She was tall, with flowing dark hair and a confident smile, leaning into Chapman as they talked, her laughter echoing in the air. At first, Emily had assumed it was nothing. After all, Chapman was a businessman. He knew a lot of people, but then, she had seen the way they were standing together, how comfortable they seemed. The woman's hand brushed against his arm in a way that felt far too familiar. It wasn't just the casual interaction of colleagues, it was intimate, almost flirtatious. Emily's heart had skipped a beat, a wave of confusion and pain washing over her. She had turned quickly, not wanting to be seen, but she couldn't shake the image of them together. She hadn't approached them. She hadn't asked any questions. Instead, she had walked away, her mind racing. Now, sitting in the cafe, she couldn't help but replay the scene in her head. She had tried to brush it off, but doubts had started to creep in. Chapman was a man with power, and with that came temptation. What if he had been hiding something from her all along? What if there was another woman in his life? Emily had never been one to jump to conclusions, but the image of Chapman with someone else lingered in her mind, refusing to be erased. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Chapman. Chapman, hey babe, I'll be home in an hour. Can't wait to see you. She stared at the screen for a moment, her fingers trembling slightly. It felt so wrong to doubt him. She had always trusted him, believed in their love, but the nagging feeling in her chest wouldn't go away. She needed to talk to him, to understand what had really happened, but she didn't know how to ask. What if he denied it? What if he got angry, accusing her of being paranoid? The door to the cafe opened, and the couple walked in, laughing together. The man kissed the woman's cheek, and Emily's eyes followed them for a moment. She felt a pang of longing, wishing she could have that kind of confidence, the kind that came from knowing that everything was as it seemed. But now, all she had was uncertainty. She had to make a decision. She stood up, pushing the chair back with a creak. Her phone vibrated again. This time, it was a call from her mother. "Hi, Mom," Emily said, trying to sound normal. "Emily, darling, how are you?" Her mother's voice came through, warm and comforting, but with an edge of impatience. "We need to talk about the wedding. Have you decided on the date yet? Your father and I are finalizing the arrangements." Emily's heart sank. Her mother had been pushing her for months to settle on a date for the wedding. The family had already planned everything. They had even started discussing the guest list, as if the decision had already been made. Emily had never been one to resist her family's wishes, but now, with everything she was feeling, it seemed like the last thing she could focus on. "I don't know, Mom. I'm still thinking about it," Emily replied, her voice quieter than she intended. "You're overthinking things, sweetheart. Chapman is a good match for you. You know that, right?" Her mother's voice was soft but insistent. "You'll be happy. This marriage is the right choice for both of you." Emily closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the conversation. "I know, Mom. I just need some time." Her mother sighed. "I understand, darling, but remember, this is your future. Don't let doubts cloud your judgment. You and Chapman are perfect for each other." As the call ended, Emily felt a sense of dread wash over her. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Was she overthinking things? Was she just being paranoid? But the more she thought about it, the more she felt like she was standing at a crossroads, and the only way forward was to make a choice. She left the cafe and walked back to her apartment. The air felt colder than it had earlier, as if the universe itself was reminding her that things were about to change. She needed answers, but how could she get them without risking everything? When she entered the apartment, Chapman was sitting on the couch, his laptop open in front of him, his fingers typing away. He looked up when she walked in, his smile warm and inviting, the same as it always was. "Hey, babe," he said, closing his laptop and standing up to greet her. "How was your day?" Emily hesitated, feeling the tension in her chest. She opened her mouth to speak but then closed it again. How could she ask him about the woman at the mall without sounding accusatory? What if she was wrong? What if she ruined everything over a simple misunderstanding? "Emily," Chapman asked, stepping closer to her. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "What's wrong? You seem distant." She swallowed, her heart pounding. She couldn't keep hiding from the truth, even if she wasn't sure what it was. I saw you today," she said, her voice shaky. At the mall, with another woman, Chapman froze for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. Emily, I should have told you, he began, his voice low. The woman you saw, her name is Claire. She's a business associate, someone I've been working with on a project. She's married. For God's sake. Emily's heart raced as she processed his words. She hadn't expected this, hadn't expected him to explain so quickly. But the way you were with her, Emily started, but Chapman gently placed a finger on her lips, stopping her. I understand how it must have looked, he said softly, but I promise you, there's nothing between us. She's just a colleague, nothing more. Emily stood there, her mind racing. She wanted to believe him, she wanted to trust him, but the images from the mall kept replaying in her head. I don't know what to think anymore, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Chapman pulled her into an embrace, his arms tight around her. I swear to you, Emily, I love you. There's no one else. In that moment, Emily felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She wanted to believe him, but the doubts still lingered, like shadows in the corners of her mind. She wasn't sure where to go from here, but she knew one thing: everything had changed. The next morning, Emily stood by the window of her apartment, gazing out at the city below. The sunlight spilled over the skyline, casting long shadows across the streets. It was a beautiful day, one that promised new beginnings. But for Emily, it felt like the world had grown colder. The warmth of the sun could not reach her. She hadn't slept much the night before. Her mind kept replaying the conversation she had had with Chapman, his reassuring words echoing in her head. I swear to you, Emily, I love you. There's no one else. But even as he had said that, she couldn't shake the image of him with Claire, the way their bodies had been so close, the laughter they shared, the way Claire had touched his arm so carefully, as though it were second nature. She had tried to sleep, tried to put the thoughts aside, but they lingered in the corners of her mind. Now, standing in the early morning light, Emily was no closer to an answer. The sound of her phone buzzing broke her reverie. She glanced down at the screen and saw a message from her mother. Mother, have you decided on a date yet for the wedding? Your father wants to finalize everything this week. Let us know. A knot tightened in Emily's chest. Her mother's words, well-meaning as they were, felt suffocating. The wedding, the one she had been so certain about just a few months ago, now seemed like a distant memory. Everything had changed in the blink of an eye, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to move forward. She quickly typed back a brief response, trying to mask the turmoil inside. Emily, still thinking about it. I'll let you know soon, Mom. She stared at the screen for a moment before setting the phone down on the counter. She felt trapped. Her family's expectations, her own doubts, and the fear of losing Chapman now weighed heavily on her shoulders. What was the right thing to do? Should she go along with the wedding, as her mother suggested? Or should she confront Chapman again, dig deeper into his relationship with Claire? The sound of the door opening snapped her from her thoughts. Chapman had come home early. Emily, his voice was low, full of concern. Are you okay? She turned to face him, forcing a smile. I'm fine, she replied, but her voice faltered slightly. Chapman stepped into the living room, closing the door behind him. He was still in his suit, looking as polished and composed as always. His hair was neatly styled, and his presence was commanding. But there was a softness in his eyes that made her heart ache. You don't look fine, he said, taking a step toward her. What's going on? You've been distant since last night. Emily sighed, running a hand through her hair. I've just been thinking about things, she admitted. About us. Chapman frowned, taking a seat on the couch and patting the spot next to him. Talk to me. Em, what's going on in that head of yours? She hesitated. She had told him about the scene at the mall yesterday, about Claire. But now, standing face to face with him, Emily wasn't sure she could confront him again. What if he denied it again? What if she pushed too hard? Are you sure there's nothing between you and Claire? She asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Chapman looked at her, his expression hardening slightly. Emily, I told you, she's a colleague, nothing more. I don't know how many times I have to say it. I know you said that, she replied, feeling frustration rising within her. But the way she was looking at you, the way you two were standing there together, it felt wrong. I don't know how to explain it. Chapman stood up and walked over to her, his hands resting gently on her shoulders. I can see how you might think that, he said, his tone softening. But I swear to you, Emily, nothing happened between us. You've got to trust me. Emily closed her eyes, her breath shaky. I want to trust you, Chapman. I do, but it's hard. It's so hard when everything feels like it's slipping away. He pulled her into an embrace, his arms enveloping her. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You've got to believe that. She felt the warmth of his body against hers, but it didn't bring the comfort it once did. Instead, the dots gnawed at her, like tiny invisible teeth sinking into her mind. I don't know if I can believe you anymore, she whispered, her voice breaking. Chapman's grip tightened around her. Please, don't say that. I need you to believe in us. You're the most important person in my life. Emily stepped back, breaking free from his embrace. She wiped at her eyes, feeling the stream of tears threatening to fall. I don't know what I need right now, Chapman. I'm just so lost. Chapman's face softened, and he reached for her hand. I understand that you're scared, but I'm telling you the truth. There's nothing between me and Claire. Nothing. Emily looked at him, searching his face for any sign of dishonesty, but all she saw was concern, frustration, and a hint of desperation. He loved her. She had no doubt about that. But was that enough to erase the nagging feeling in her gut? Was it enough to erase the vision of him with Claire? She shook her head slowly. I need space. I need time to think. Chapman's face fell, and for a moment, Emily saw the hurt flush across his features. But then it was replaced by understanding, though his eyes betrayed the pain of knowing she was pulling away. If that's what you need, he said quietly, I'll give it to you. But just remember, I'm here. I'm always here when you're ready to talk. He turned to leave the room, but Emily stopped him. Chapman, she called softly. He paused and turned back, his eyes full of hope. Don't give up on me, she whispered. I won't, he replied. I promise you that. As he left the room, Emily sank into the couch, her heart heavy. She wanted to believe him, but the uncertainty was suffocating. The distance between them felt like an insurmountable wall, and Emily wasn't sure how to break it down. She glanced over at the phone on the counter, the message from her mother still lingering. She should have been excited about the wedding, about the future, but right now, all she could think about was the uncertainty between her and Chapman. She couldn't even imagine walking down the aisle with him when everything felt so fragile. The silence in the apartment was deafening. Emily sat there for what felt like hours, lost in her thoughts. Was Chapman telling the truth? Could she really trust him? And if she couldn't, what did that mean for their future? Her phone buzzed again, and this time, it was a message from Chapman. Chapman, I love you, Em. I'll be here whenever you're ready. Emily stared at the message for a long moment, her heart aching. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to hold on to the life they had built together. But everything felt like it was falling apart, and she didn't know how to put the pieces back together. The mall was busier than usual that Saturday afternoon, with the hum of chatter and the sound of shoes tapping against the tiled floor filling the air. Emily wandered through the brightly lit halls, feeling like she was floating through a world that was spinning around her. The world, it seemed, was moving on unaffected by the turmoil brewing inside her. She had tried to distract herself from her thoughts by heading to the mall to pick up a few things, but her mind kept returning to Chapman and the overwhelming sense of doubt she couldn't shake off. She wasn't sure what she expected to find today, maybe an answer, a moment of clarity. She thought that time apart from Chapman might help her sort through her feelings, but instead, she found herself feeling more confused than ever. As she turned the corner, Emily almost collided with a woman carrying shopping bags. She quickly stepped back, offering a quick apology. The woman gave her a polite smile before continuing on her way. Emily continued to walk, her gaze drifting from one store to another. She didn't need anything in particular. There was a boutique on the left she had meant to stop by, but she kept her pace, barely registering the displays of handbags and shoes. Then, her heart skipped a beat. Ahead of her, standing by the escalator, was Chapman. He was talking to someone Emily instantly recognized. It was Claire. Claire, the woman who had been with Chapman at the mall a few days ago, the one whose touch had seemed far too intimate, whose smile had lingered just a little too long. Emily's chest tightened, and for a brief moment, she considered turning and walking away. Maybe this time, it would be different. Maybe she could ignore them, convince herself that it was nothing, just business. But then, as if fate had other plans, Claire turned, and her eyes met Emily's. For a second, their gazes locked, and Emily could see the recognition flash in Claire's eyes. The smile on Claire's face faltered for a brief moment, before she quickly regained her composure and said something to Chapman. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she watched Chapman look over his shoulder, his expression softening when he saw her. Emily, Chapman called, his voice light, almost surprised. It was too late to turn away now. Emily forced a smile, her legs feeling like lead as she walked toward them. Hey, Emily said, trying to keep her voice steady. She forced herself to meet Claire's gaze, but the unease was unmistakable. Claire was standing too close to Chapman. Too close. The same uncomfortable proximity that had bothered her the other day. Chapman's smile widened, and he stepped forward, his hand reaching out toward Emily's. I didn't expect to see you here today. You're looking beautiful, as always, he said, his voice warm, but there was a nervous edge to it that Emily couldn't ignore. Emily took his hand, feeling a jolt of warmth flood her chest, but it didn't erase the lingering doubts. I was just picking up a few things, she replied, glancing briefly at Claire, who was now watching her with an almost neutral expression. This is Claire, Chapman said, gesturing to the woman standing next to him. We're working on a project together. Claire, this is Emily, my fiancée. Claire smiled politely and extended her hand. It's nice to meet you, Emily. Emily shook her hand, trying to keep the tension out of her body, but she could feel a spark of discomfort igniting in her chest. Claire's smile was genuine, but there was something behind it, something that made Emily feel like an outsider. Nice to meet you too, Emily said, her voice quieter than she intended. She took a step back, feeling the weight of the situation pressing on her. Chapman seemed oblivious to the growing distance between them. Claire was just telling me about some ideas she has for the project, he said, his voice casual, but his eyes flicked to Emily as if checking her reaction. We were just about to grab a coffee. Would you like to join us? Emily opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. Could she really join them? What would it say about her if she just sat down with them, pretending everything was fine? Everything in her screamed to walk away, to leave them to their meeting and distance herself from the uncomfortable knot tightening in her stomach. But before she could speak, Claire interrupted. We wouldn't want to take up too much of your time, Claire said, her tone light but with an underlying edge that Emily couldn't quite place. I'm sure you two have a lot to catch up on. She smiled again, but this time, it didn't feel entirely friendly. Emily's gaze darted to Chapman. He had an apologetic look on his face, and she could see that he was trying to gauge her reaction. His brow furrowed slightly, as if he was reading her discomfort but didn't know how to address it. Emily began, but she stopped herself. She didn't want to make a scene, but everything in her wanted to ask the questions that had been burning inside her for days. Why was Chapman spending so much time with Claire? Was it just business, or was there more to their relationship that he was letting on? Instead, she forced a smile, her voice carefully neutral. Maybe some other time. I have to go, she said quickly, before turning toward the exit. Emily, wait, Chapman started, but she didn't stop. She didn't want to hear him try to explain. Not now, not when everything felt so uncertain. As she walked briskly toward the doors, she could hear Chapman calling her name from behind, but she didn't turn around. She pushed open the glass doors and stepped into the cool air outside, her heart racing, her breath shallow. She wanted to run, but she couldn't. She just needed space, space to think, space to breathe. The sound of her heels clicking against the pavement echoed in the empty street as she walked further away from the mall. Emily's mind was spinning. Why had Claire been there with Chapman? Why had she seemed so comfortable with him? And why had Emily felt like an intruder in her own relationship? The doubts that had been lurking in the corners of her mind suddenly felt overwhelming. She wasn't sure what was going on with Chapman, but something wasn't right. She could feel it deep in her gut. That nagging sensation that told her the truth was just out of reach, hiding in plain sight. By the time Emily reached a small park near the mall, her thoughts were a chaotic mess. She needed answers, but the more she thought about everything, the more tangled her emotions became. The pain of doubt was consuming her, and no matter how much she tried to convince herself that Chapman loved her, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being deceived. She sat on a bench, taking in a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She had to think clearly. She had to make sense of what was happening. But with every moment that passed, the walls around her seemed to grow higher, and the distance between her and Chapman seemed to widen. The evening had descended upon the city, bathing the skyline in a soft golden glow. The streets were alive with the hum of bustling commuters, the occasional car honking as it weaved through the traffic. Emily sat at her kitchen counter, a cup of tea in front of her, untouched. Her fingers traced the rim of the cup absent-mindedly, her mind too consumed by everything that had happened in the past few days. The scene in the mall earlier today played in a loop in her mind. Chapman and Claire. Claire's smile, the way Chapman's eyes had flicked nervously between her and Claire. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She didn't know what to think anymore, but one thing was clear: she couldn't go on like this. She couldn't live in this limbo, uncertain of what the future held, wondering if her fears were justified. She had spent hours replaying the scene in her head, trying to understand it from every angle. Maybe she was overreacting, she thought. Maybe it was just business. But the doubt, the unease, wouldn't go away. It gnawed at her, growing stronger with every passing hour. Her phone buzzed, breaking her thoughts. Emily glanced at the screen and saw a text message from her mother. Mother, have you decided on a wedding date yet? Darling, your father and I are waiting for you to make the final call. Emily stared at the message for a long time, her chest tightening. The wedding, her wedding. It had once been the one thing she had been certain about. No, it felt like an impossible dream, an idea she could no longer grasp. She sighed, setting the phone down and standing up from the counter. The kitchen felt too small, too suffocating. She needed to clear her head. She needed to get away from all of it. Grabbing her coat, she headed for the door, the cool evening air greeting her as she stepped outside. The streets were still crowded, the city alive with its usual energy. But Emily felt disconnected from it all. She walked aimlessly, her feet carrying her through the city without any particular destination in mind. After walking for what felt like an eternity, she found herself at the small park near the river, a place she often visited when she needed to think. The soft rustle of leaves in the trees and the gentle flow of the water had always brought her a sense of calm. Tonight, however, the peaceful surroundings did little to ease the turmoil inside her. She sat on a bench near the water's edge, staring at the dark ripples that reflected the light of the distant street lamps. Her mind was a battlefield, torn between the love she felt for Chapman and the overwhelming fear that she was losing him. As she sat there, lost in thought, She didn't hear the footsteps approaching. She didn't notice Chapman until he was standing in front of her, his figure silhouetted against the dim light. She blinked, startled, and then forced a smile. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sounding more defensive than she intended. "I could ask you the same thing," Chapman said, a wry smile tugging at his lips as he sat down beside her. "It's late." I was starting to worry. Emily shifted uncomfortably, her hands tightly gripping the edge of the bench. "I needed some air, a little space." Chapman's expression softened, and he turned to face her, his eyes searching hers. "I understand, but you've been distant for days, Emily. I don't know what's going on with you, and it's driving me crazy." Emily exhaled slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. She could feel it. This was the moment when everything would either fall apart or be put back together. She had to confront him. She couldn't keep running from the truth. "I saw you with Claire today," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Chapman stiffened, and for a brief moment, his eyes flickered with something that Emily couldn't quite read. "You saw us at the mall?" he asked, his voice guarded. "Yes," Emily replied, her gaze fixed on the ground. "You two were so close, too close, and I didn't know how to feel about it. I still don't know what to think." There was a long pause before Chapman spoke again, his tone carefully mannered. "Emily, I told you before, Claire and I are working on a project together. That's all it is. I understand that you're feeling insecure right now, but I need you to trust me." Emily shook her head, her frustration building. "I want to trust you, Chapman. I really do, but I can't ignore what I saw. It wasn't just a friendly meeting. There was something more to it. I could feel it." Chapman's gaze softened, and he reached for her hand, gently taking it in his. "Emily, you have to believe me. There's nothing between me and Claire. I care about you, only you. I don't know if I can believe you," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I can keep pretending that everything is fine when it feels like I'm the only one who cares about the truth." Chapman's grip on her hand tightened, his thumb gently brushing over her knuckles. "I'm not trying to hurt you, I swear. I'm trying to build a future with you, Emily. I don't want anyone else. I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in his voice made her heart ache. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that what they had was real, but the fear, the uncertainty, still lingered. Like a shadow she couldn't escape. "Why should I believe you?" Emily asked, her voice barely audible. "How can I be sure that you're not hiding something from me?" Chapman sighed, his shoulders slumping. "I don't know what else to say, Emily. All I can tell you is that I love you, and I would never do anything to jeopardize that." A tear slipped down Emily's cheek, and she quickly wiped it away, embarrassed. "I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to move forward when everything feels like a lie." Chapman reached out, his hand gently cupping her face. "It's not a lie, Emily. I promise you, it's not. I know I've made mistakes in the past, but I'm not hiding anything now. All I want is to be with you. But I can't do this alone. You have to trust me." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken emotion. Emily closed her eyes, her chest tightening with a mixture of longing and fear. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to close her eyes and pretend that everything would be okay. But a part of her, the part that was still scared, still hurt, couldn't let go of the doubt. "I need time," she said finally, her voice breaking. "I need time to think." Chapman didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, he sighed deeply. "I understand. But don't take too long, Emily. I don't want to lose you." As he stood up to leave, he turned to face her one last time, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and desperation. "Please don't shut me out. I'll be here, waiting for you." And with that, he walked away, leaving Emily alone in the quiet park, the weight of his words pressing down on her chest, the soft rustle of the leaves, the quiet flow of the river. It all seemed so distant now. Emily sat there, staring at the water, lost in her thoughts. She didn't know what to do. But one thing was clear: she couldn't keep living in this uncertainty. The choice she made now would determine the rest of her life, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to make it. The week had passed in a blur. Days of sleepless nights, hours of pacing back and forth in her apartment, and moments of agonizing silence. Emily felt like she was drowning in a sea of confusion and doubt. She had tried to reach out to Chapman, but each time, she pulled away at the last moment. She wasn't sure if she was trying to protect herself or if she was simply afraid to face the truth. Every time she looked at her phone, she saw his name, his messages. "I'm here when you're ready to talk, please. Don't shut me out. I love you." But the more he tried, the more she recoiled. That morning, she had woken up to an email from her mother about the wedding arrangements. Her parents had been waiting for her to make a final decision, but Emily wasn't sure she could go through with it anymore. She wasn't sure about Chapman. She wasn't sure about herself. She stood at the window of her apartment, staring out at the bustling city below. The sun had barely risen, but the streets were already alive with movement. People rushing to work, cars honking, the world spinning as usual. And yet, it felt as though time had slowed to a crawl for Emily. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt this lost, this alone. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Chapman. She hesitated before opening it, her fingers hovering over the screen for a long moment before finally pressing open. Chapman, Emily, please, we need to talk. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep wondering if you're going to walk away from me. Let's meet, please. I'm not giving up on us. A sharp pain pierced through her chest. He was fighting for them, but she wasn't sure if she could fight anymore. Was this love, or was it just a mistake waiting to be made? Could she trust him again after everything? Her finger hovered over the screen again, unsure of what to say. She wanted to respond, to let him know what she was feeling, but the words didn't come. She wanted to say that she was sorry, that she didn't know what was happening to them, that she didn't know how to move forward. But instead, she turned the phone off and tossed it onto the couch. She needed time. She needed space, as if the universe was listening to her. There was a knock at the door. Emily froze. No one ever came to visit her this early. Her heart raced as she slowly walked toward the door, wondering who it could be. When she opened it, she found Chapman standing there. His hair was slightly messy, his hands stuffed into the pockets of his coat. His eyes met hers, filled with an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat. "Chapman," she said, her voice soft, but filled with an undercurrent of surprise. "Can we talk?" Chapman asked, his voice low but steady. "I know you're upset, Emily, and I get it. I really do, but I'm not leaving until we figure this out." Emily didn't know what to say. She wanted to scream, to tell him everything she had been feeling for days, but the words caught in her throat. So, instead, she stepped aside and let him in. He walked past her without saying another word, heading toward the living room where they usually spent their time together. Emily followed, her footsteps hesitant, unsure of what would happen next. She sat down on the couch, her hands in her lap, trying to calm the storm raging inside her. She could feel Chapman's presence beside her, his energy filling the space between them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was suffocating, pressing down on Emily's chest, making it harder for her to breathe. Finally, Chapman spoke. "I've been trying to understand, Emily. I don't know what went wrong, but I can feel you slipping away from me, and I can't stand it." Emily closed her eyes, her heart aching. She had never seen Chapman like this, so vulnerable, so desperate. She wanted to reach out to him, to comfort him, but she didn't know how. The distance between them felt like a chasm that was growing wider with every passing moment. "Do you love me, Emily?" Chapman asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. The question hit her like a punch to the stomach. She opened her eyes and looked at him, her mind racing. Did she love him? The answer should have been simple, but it wasn't. Her feelings were so tangled, so conflicted, that she wasn't sure if she could trust her own heart. "I don't know anymore," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I can keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not. I don't know if I can trust you, Chapman, and that scares me more than anything." Chapman's face fell, his lips parting as though he were about to speak, but he paused, his eyes searching hers. He took a deep breath before speaking again, his voice filled with raw emotion. "Emily, I swear to you, I've never lied to you. Everything I've done, every moment we've shared, it's been real. There is no one else. There never has been. There's only you." He reached out, gently taking her hand in his thumb running over her skin in a slow, reassuring motion. "I'm not asking you to forget what happened," he continued, his voice steady. "I'm not asking you to forget Claire or any of the doubts you've been having, but I need you to understand that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And if you're willing to fight for us, I'll fight too. I'll fight for you, for us." Emily stared at him, her chest tightening, the sincerity in his voice, the pain in his eyes. It was hard to ignore, but the doubts were still there, lingering like shadows in the back of her mind. "I want to believe you, Chapman," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I really do. But I can't ignore how I feel. Every time I think about the way you've been with Claire, every time I think about how you've been pulling away from me, it hurts, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I can fix it." There was a long pause. Chapman didn't say anything at first. He just sat there, his hand still holding hers, as if grounding her in the moment. The silence between them felt thick with unspoken words, with pain that neither of them knew how to articulate. "Emily, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the way I made you feel. I'm sorry for not being there when you needed me. But I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I'll show you that I'm not the man you think I am." His words hung in the air, and Emily's heart clenched. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But a part of her was terrified that if she let go of her doubts, she would lose herself in the process. The fear of being hurt again was too overwhelming. "I need time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't make any promises right now. I need time to figure out what I want, what's best for me, for us." Chapman's expression softened, and he nodded slowly, his thumb brushing against her hand one last time. "I'll wait for you, Emily. I'll always wait for you." He stood up and turned toward the door, pausing before leaving. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere, but don't shut me out completely, please." As the door closed behind him, Emily sat in the silence, her heart racing in her chest. The words they had shared were both a plea and a promise, but she didn't know if she could believe in them. She didn't know if she could believe in him, but one thing was certain: she couldn't keep living in this limbo. The time had come for her to decide, and that decision would change everything. The city was shrouded in mist as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the busy streets. Emily had spent the past few days in an uneasy silence. The conversations with Chapman had become more distant, and her heart had begun to feel like a heavy weight, tethered to a past that she wasn't sure she could hold on to any longer. She had tried to push away the thoughts, the doubts, and the questions, but every time she closed her eyes, the image of Chapman and Claire, standing so close to each other in the mall, flashed before her. Her mind wouldn't stop turning, circling in on the same unresolved feelings, the same questions without answers. But there was something else now, too, a shift, a quiet realization that she couldn't keep running from the truth, no matter how much it terrified her. Her feelings for Chapman were real. She had known that for a long time, but the fear, the uncertainty, was becoming unbearable. She had to face it. She had to face him. Her phone buzzed again, and this time, she didn't hesitate. She opened the message. Chapman, I know things haven't been easy lately, but I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending that nothing's wrong. Please meet me tomorrow. I need you to hear me out. Emily stared at the message for a long time, her fingers gripping the phone tightly. Part of her wanted to ignore it. Part of her wanted to walk away, to find a way out. But the other part, the part that loved him, the part that still wanted to believe in them, told her that she needed to do this. She needed to hear him out. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop running from the truth. She replied with a single word, okay. The following evening, Emily found herself standing in front of the same cafe where they had first met. Its warm, yellow lights spilling onto the sidewalk cast him a soft glow. The air was cool, and she wrapped her coat tighter around her shoulders as she pushed the door open. Stepping inside, the cafe was quieter than usual. The soft hum of conversation mixed with the clinking of cups and the smell of fresh coffee. It felt like the right place, the right time. She spotted Chapman sitting at a table in the corner, his eyes already on her as she walked in. He stood up when he saw her, his face a mix of hope and anxiety. There were deep lines around his eyes, and his usual confident demeanor was replaced by something much more vulnerable. His gaze softened when their eyes met, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something had irrevocably changed between them. Emily, he said, his voice low, almost too gentle. Thank you for coming. She nodded, her stomach a tight knot. I wasn't sure what to expect, but here I am. Chapman gestured to the chair across from him. Please, sit down. I don't want this to be awkward, but I know it probably is. I need you to hear me out. Can we just talk? Emily took a deep breath, her eyes meeting his for the first time in days. She could feel her heart beating faster, an undercurrent of both hope and fear running through her veins. Okay, talk. He sat back down and exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. I've been thinking about everything, about what happened between us, about Claire, about my actions, and I realized something important. I've been so focused on trying to fix things, trying to make everything look perfect on the outside, that I lost sight of what was really important. I lost sight of you. Emily's breath caught in her throat. His words felt raw, and for a moment, she saw a side of him that she hadn't seen before, a side that wasn't just the confident businessman, but the man who was willing to face his mistakes. I should have communicated better, he continued, his voice steady but laced with regret. I shouldn't have let you feel like you were being left behind. I shouldn't have let you feel like you couldn't trust me. You're everything to me, Emily. Everything. She swallowed hard, her emotions swirling. She wanted to respond, to say something, but the words stuck in her throat. She had wanted him to say these things for so long, to take responsibility, to show her that he cared as much as she cared for him. But now that he had, it felt like a double-edged sword. She wanted to forgive him, but the wounds were still fresh. I've been thinking a lot too, she said quietly, her fingers tapping the side of her cup. I've been wondering if I'm holding on to something that's not real, if I'm holding on to you just because I don't want to face the possibility of losing you. Emily, no, let me finish, she interrupted softly. I've been scared, Chapman, scared that everything we've had, everything I've believed in, is a lie. I've been afraid that I'm just too blinded by what I want to be true that I can't see what's really going on. I saw you with Claire, and she stopped herself, the words choking her. He reached across the table, placing his hand gently over hers, silencing her with a simple touch. I get it, he said, his voice low. I know I messed up. I shouldn't have put you in that position. I shouldn't have let you think there was something more with Claire. But there isn't, Emily. There never was. She's just a colleague. And the only reason I didn't tell you sooner is because I didn't want to hurt you by explaining something that I thought was trivial. But I see now that it wasn't trivial. I should have talked to you about it. Emily pulled her head back, her mind racing. Her feelings were tangled up in confusion, in longing, in hurt, She wanted to believe him, but the doubt was still there. The image of him and Claire, laughing together, remained vivid in her mind. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked quietly, her voice shaking. "Why did you let me feel like this? You didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth." Chapman winced at her words, his face tightening with guilt. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I kept it from you, it wouldn't hurt you. But I was wrong. I should have known that you'd feel betrayed. I should have known that you needed to hear the truth from me, not just from my actions." Emily looked away, her eyes lingering on the window outside. The lights of the city twinkled in the distance, but they felt far away, like a world she no longer belonged to. "I'm sorry, Emily. I truly am," Chapman said, his voice soft but filled with sincerity. "I can't change what's happened. I can't take back the mistakes I've made, but I can show you who I really am, and I can prove to you that I'm not giving up on us." The silence between them hung heavily in the air. Emily felt the weight of his words pressing down on her. The decision she had to make clearer than ever. The path forward, if there was one, was uncertain, but she knew one thing: if she walked away now, she would never know if they could have made it. "Chapman," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I can forget what happened." He nodded, a resigned look on his face, but there was still hope in his eyes. "I understand, Emily. I know it's not something that can be fixed overnight, but I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to give me a chance. Give us a chance to rebuild, to start over, to move forward together, please." The words hung in the air, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. The decision was hers. She could stay, or she could walk away. She could let the fear of the unknown rule her, or she could take the leap and trust him again. Finally, Emily looked up at Chapman, her eyes filled with emotion. "I need time, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see where we go from here. But we have to rebuild everything. We can't keep pretending." Chapman smiled, relief flooding his features, and for the first time in days, Emily felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of a new chapter for them. The sky was overcast, a shade of gray that matched the weight in Emily's chest. She stood by the window of her apartment, her fingers absently tracing the cool glass, looking out at the city. The last few days had been a whirlwind of emotions. After her conversation with Chapman, she had spent hours replaying every word in her head, every touch, every moment that had brought them here. But despite the chaos swirling inside her, there was something different about how she felt now. She wasn't sure if it was hope or fear, but she had made a choice. She would take the next step. She would give Chapman the chance he had been asking for, and in doing so, she would face the truth whether their love was worth fighting for or if it was just an illusion she had been holding on to all this time. Her phone buzzed again, and she glanced at it. A message from Chapman. "Chapman, I've been thinking a lot. I know we're still working through things, but I just want to say I'm grateful for you, for giving us a chance. I'll be waiting for you tonight at the rooftop cafe at 7. Please come. Emily, I want to talk more about us." Her heart skipped a beat. The rooftop cafe, it had been their place, the place where they had first really connected, the place where their relationship had begun to blossom. She hadn't expected him to ask her to meet there. It felt like a promise, a step toward something that could be real again. As she put her phone down, she took a deep breath. This was it, the leap of faith. She wasn't entirely sure what would come next, but she couldn't stand still any longer. She needed to move forward. She needed to face him, face the possibility of something new, something that could either heal or shatter everything. At precisely 7 o'clock p.m., Emily arrived at the rooftop cafe. The faint sound of music floated on the evening air, the gentle hum of a jazz band playing in the background. The cafe had a romantic ambience, with string lights crisscrossing overhead, casting a warm golden glow. She spotted Chapman sitting at a small table by the edge of the rooftop, his figure silhouetted against the city lights below. The sight of him took her breath away for a moment. There was something about him in this moment that felt more vulnerable than she had ever seen him. It made her heart ache. As she approached, he stood up, his eyes searching hers as if he were looking for something unanswered, perhaps, or a sign that she was still with him, still willing to try. "Emily," he said, his voice quiet but filled with emotion, "I wasn't sure you'd come. I've been waiting for you." "I almost didn't," she admitted, her voice soft, "but I realized that I can't keep running. I have to face this, face us. Whatever happens next, I have to know if we can make this work. I owe it to us." A slow, relieved smile tugged at the corners of his lips. He stepped forward, pulling out a chair for her. "Please, sit. I'm glad you came." Emily sat down, her hands folded tightly in her lap, feeling the tension between them. But there was a different kind of tension now, not the kind that came from anger or doubt, but from something deeper, something that could be both terrifying and beautiful. They sat in silence for a few moments, the noise of the city below fading into the background as the moments stretched out between them. Chapman was the first to break the silence. "I've spent so many days trying to figure out how to fix everything. I kept telling myself that I was doing the right thing by giving you space, by being patient. but I think I was wrong. I should have fought harder for you, for us. I shouldn't have let the distance grow between us like I did. And I'm sorry. Emily looked at him. The sincerity in his eyes undeniable. I don't want to keep reliving the past, Chapman. I don't want to keep focusing on what went wrong. What happened, happened. But it's up to us to decide what happens next. He nodded, his fingers tapping lightly on the table. You're right, we can't change the past, but we can build something from it. We can build something stronger, something real. We just have to be honest with each other. Emily, no more hiding, no more pretending. I've never been more sure of anything in my life than I am about us. I want to be with you. I want to try. I want to fight for us. Her breath caught in her throat. He sounded so sure, so determined. It made the fear inside her grow, but it also made her realize something. She wanted to fight too. She wanted to believe in the possibility of a future with him. But it wouldn't be easy. There would be work. There would be challenges. But maybe, just maybe, they were ready for it. I want that too, Emily said softly, meeting his gaze. But I need you to understand something. I'm scared. I'm scared of being hurt again. I'm scared of falling for you all over again, only to find out that this isn't real. I need to know that you're here for the long haul, Chapman. That this isn't just another moment of convenience for you. He reached out, his hand resting gently over hers, his touch warm and steady. I know I've given you reasons to doubt me, and I hate that I've done that. But I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I'm asking you to give me the chance to prove that I'm worth your trust. I want to prove to you that I'm here, that I'm not going anywhere. No, no, not ever. A soft sigh escaped her lips as she looked down at their hands, feeling the warmth of his touch seep into her skin. The ache in her chest began to fade, replaced by something else, something more hopeful, but still fragile. I don't know if I can do this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can just forget everything that's happened. I don't know if I can just move forward without looking back. You don't have to forget, he replied softly. You just have to choose to move forward. We'll take it one step at a time. I don't expect you to let go of your doubts overnight, and I don't expect things to be perfect. But I'm willing to put in the work. I'll do whatever it takes. I just need you to be here with me, to take the first step, together. Emily felt her heart soften at his words. She had been so afraid of the unknown, so afraid of what could go wrong, that she hadn't let herself consider what could go right. She had been holding herself back, protecting herself from something that wasn't even certain. Taking a deep breath, she looked back up at Chapman, her eyes meeting his with renewed resolve. Okay, I'll take that step with you. We'll figure this out together. A wave of relief washed over his face, and he smiled, the weight of the past few days lifting from his shoulders. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You don't know how much this means to me. The city lights flickered in the distance, casting a soft glow over the rooftop. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emily felt like there was a way forward. There was no certainty, no guarantee that everything would work out. But for the first time, she felt like maybe they could make it. Maybe they could build something together, something stronger than the doubts and fears that had once threatened to tear them apart. They sat there in the silence, the sound of their breathing the only noise between them. And for the first time in a long time, Emily allowed herself to believe in the possibility of something beautiful, something real. The morning sun peeked through the tall glass windows of Emily's apartment, casting a soft glow on the polished hardwood floors. The city outside was alive with energy, the streets bustling with people on their way to work, the sound of distant cars filling the air. But inside, the world felt still, as if time had slowed to allow Emily a moment of peace. She stood by the window, staring out at the skyline, her mind a whirl of emotions. It had been a week since she and Chapman had agreed to give their relationship another chance, a week since they had decided to rebuild, step by step, and take the leap together. But despite the clarity of that decision, Emily still found herself wrestling with doubt, the fear of what might go wrong, the fear of being hurt again. It all lingered, hovering just beneath the surface. Her phone buzzed on the counter, snapping her out of her thoughts. She picked it up, and as soon as she saw Chapman's name on the screen, her heart skipped a beat. Chapman, good morning, beautiful. I've been thinking about you. Can't wait to see you tonight. Let's make tonight special. I have a surprise for you. A smile tugged at her lips as she read the message. The tension in her chest eased a little. He had been working hard to show her that he was committed, that he wasn't going anywhere. And although it hadn't been easy, she had to admit that she was beginning to believe him. He was trying, and that meant everything. She quickly typed back a response. Emily, I can't wait. You've been full of surprises lately. Chapman, only for you. See you tonight. I'm counting the minutes. As she set the phone down, Emily took a deep breath and glanced at the clock. There was still time before she had to meet him. But the anticipation was already building. A part of her still hesitated, still worried that something might go wrong. But she knew she couldn't keep living in fear. She had to give this a chance. They had to give this a chance. Later that evening, Emily found herself standing outside one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, a place she had always dreamed of visiting but never thought she would. The soft glow of the chandeliers inside beckoned her, casting long shadows on the sidewalk. She was nervous, her stomach a knot of excitement and anxiety. Tonight, Chapman had promised something special, and after everything they had been through, she couldn't help but wonder what he had planned. She pushed open the door and stepped inside, immediately greeted by the rich scent of gourmet food and the soft murmur of voices. The restaurant was elegant, understated, and timeless, the kind of place that seemed to hold memories in every corner. As she walked past the tables, she finally saw Chapman waiting for her at a secluded booth by the window. He stood when he saw her, his smile warm and genuine, his eyes lighting up as if seeing her was the best part of his day. She felt a flutter in her chest, the familiar sensation of hope and love stirring within her. For a moment, the world outside seemed to disappear, leaving only the two of them in that intimate, perfect bubble. "You look amazing," Chapman said as he kissed her on the cheek, his touch lingering for just a second longer than necessary. His voice was soft, filled with affection. "I'm so glad you're here." "Thank you," Emily replied, her smile shy but genuine. "This place is beautiful. What's the occasion?" Chapman motioned for her to sit down, then slid into the booth across from her. "There's no occasion, really. Just wanted to do something special for us, for you." His words were simple, but they carried so much weight. Emily felt her heart soften at the thought of how much he had been trying, how much he had been doing to show her that he was committed to making this work. It wasn't perfect, she knew that, but it was real, and that was enough for her. As they sat down and the waiter poured them each a glass of wine, the conversation turned to lighter topics: how work was going, what they had been up to lately, and the little things that made their days brighter. It felt easy, effortless, like the natural rhythm of their relationship had returned. But underneath the surface, there was still a quiet tension, one that neither of them could ignore for long. "So, what's the surprise?" Emily asked, raising an eyebrow playfully. Chapman chuckled, leaning back in his seat. "You're not getting off that easy. You'll see soon enough. But I promise it's worth the wait." The evening passed slowly, the conversation flowing easily between them as they enjoyed the exquisite meal. The restaurant's ambience, soft lighting, delicate music, and the gentle clink of silver added to the intimacy of the night. But all the while, Emily's mind kept returning to the same question: what was the surprise? As dessert was cleared away, Chapman stood and extended his hand to her. "Come with me." Emily looked at him curiously but took his hand without hesitation. He led her out of the restaurant, the cool evening air greeting them as they stepped onto the sidewalk. She followed him through the city streets, her heart pounding with anticipation. He had been so secretive, and yet, there was something in his demeanor that told her it was something special. They stopped in front of a small building, one that Emily hadn't noticed before, but there was a sense of familiarity about it. It was a boutique art gallery, its windows showcasing stunning works of art. But what caught her attention was the small sign hanging above the door: "Exhibit of Memories, a Journey Through Time." Emily raised an eyebrow. "An art gallery?" Chapman smiled, his eyes softening. "Not just any art gallery. This one is ours." Her heart skipped a beat. "Ours? What do you mean?" When a mischievous glint in his eye, Chapman pushed open the door and led her inside. The gallery was quiet and dimly lit, the walls lined with framed photographs and paintings. As Emily stepped inside, she was immediately drawn to the first piece on the left, a photograph of her and Chapman, taken on their first trip together, their faces glowing with the kind of happiness that only new love could bring. "It's beautiful," Emily whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She reached out, her fingers brushing the frame. "But I don't understand." Chapman smiled, his voice low and full of warmth. "I've been collecting memories, moments from our time together, all of the big moments, and even the small ones. I wanted to create something to remind us of everything we've been through, everything we've shared. This is just the beginning. I want to fill this place with us, Emily, with everything we've built, everything we will build together." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she took in the photographs, moments from their travels, from their everyday lives, from the laughter they had shared, the struggles they had faced. Each piece of art was a testament to the journey they had been on, both the good and the bad. It was a love story written in pictures, each one telling a chapter of their relationship. "I don't know what to say," Emily said, her voice breaking. "This is incredible. It's more than I could have ever imagined." "You don't need to say anything," Chapman replied, his voice soft. "I just wanted to show you that I'm committed to this, to us, no matter what happens. I want to keep making memories with you. I want to keep building our future." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked up at him, her heart full of gratitude, of love, of hope. "I'm ready to build that future with you, Chapman. I'm ready to take this leap, together." He pulled her into his arms, holding her close, and in that moment, Emily felt the weight of all her fears and doubts fall away. She was no longer afraid of what the future might hold. She had made her choice, and with Chapman by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next, together.